of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Nice cool morning compared to what we have.
Beautiful. Lovely.
Yeah, it is. Well, if there isn't any changes on the agenda, I'll look for an approval of the agenda.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from June 7th.
Did you read them this time?
Yep, I read them, yep, they look good. The only thing I can say is, I don't know if it makes a difference, I forgot to tell you that our, IWD meeting was in, Ankeny. That's the only difference, but that was my fault, 'cause I didn't mention it.
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. General public concerns. Looks like we have none, so Scott, we're gonna get right in with you.
Morning, Scott.
Good morning. Let's see, we got
Our
our,
renewal.
yes, insurance renewal, pass these around that way, couple this way.
Come on. Oh, I got one,
Oh, is this one?
That's all right.
Oh, wait,
These all the same? Okay.
Here, I got plenty of it.
Thank you. Oh, I was a
I thought I
good one.
did.
I only have one. You know I can't read right. I only got one.
Well, good morning, and I wanted to, go through our review packet with supervisors for the upcoming renewal July 1st.
That time of year already,
Time of year,
Unbelievable.
12 months flies by. And, you know, if you use the cliche, there's some good news and some bad news, but fortunately, the good news outweighs the bad news.
Great.
That's good.
Overall, premium for the upcoming year is down $23,000 over the previous year.
Really? Wow.
Awesome.
Okay.
And you'll see when we get into the packet that where the good news is that's in the work comp area, and that helps net our, you know, the net decrease in premiums. Where the bad news is probably no surprise, it's in the property area with all the storms, derecho especially, ICAP counties, took a significant hit with derecho storm losses last August. And, so that's reflected in having to recover in a couple of areas. One, obviously the property premium, when we look at that, had to be increased. And then typically, ICAP has provided a credit voucher towards premium, and that was put on hold for this year. You know, it's not gonna be a forever thing, but they just said we've gotta recover a little bit.
keep it.
Yeah, got a little recovery time period here. So hopefully, you know, so far so good this year, and we keep things going, and we'll be back to normal.
Yeah, we liked it when you brought us the voucher, Scott.
I know, well, hopefully we can bring it next year. So let's just get right into the property section, just to recap here. It shows we have a blanket property coverage, which is just a flexible, and you see our amount, $17,618,000. That's up a little bit over the prior year, but that's just standard inflationary, what ICAP does is each year bumps that value up to cover inflationary costs and labor and materials for replacement value. But the blanket just provides us some flexibility that total can be used wherever it's needed. It's not specific to one building, even though we have a listing by building and a specific dollar amount provided by building. That's not what's used when a loss happens. It's our $17 million. $1,000 deductible, you see off to the right, special form of cause of loss. That's just the broadest coverage form that ICAP has available. Does include some equipment breakdown coverages under our endorsements. And, we have a statement of values, which I mentioned, that's just how we build up to our overall blanket value on there.
Got a question. On our equipment breakdown, now would that cover us if we lost a motor grader and we have to rent one? or not?
That's not what this equipment breakdown endorsement would do is more of mechanical systems within our buildings, you know, heating, cooling, and that.
All right.
So if we have a premature failure to a fan motor, bearing, compressor, that kind of thing,
Gotcha.
that's what
Okay.
it does, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there any need to expound on things like government property agreement, statement of values?
Yeah, the governmental property agreement, that's just their enhancement form, sort of their bells and whistles, and, it's, so you have your property coverage form, but then they also throw in a lot of the add-ons, you know, sort of outdoor shrubs and property, outdoor signs, things like that, to a property enhancement. And I can bring that.
That's okay, but I mean, so it's a little more than your standard property?
Yes, it just brings in, throws in a few extra bells and whistles.
Statement of values?
Statement of values, that's kind of what I alluded to, is what, the listing of this building, engineer's office, conservation office, you know, and then it builds to our, it's how we get to our 17 million.
But you said that you have that, but particularly, you have up to that coverage
Right.
per even one building.
Right.
It's
So for instance,
cumulative.
statement of values on our courthouse might say, this is a $10 million building.
Mhm.
And if something happened to where this building went to the ground and took $12 million to bring back,
You have the coverage.
we have the coverage.
Okay,
Right.
good.
Right. They don't look at the statement of value and say, we only listed it for 10.
What if, okay,
And that's where the 90%, if you see across that line, there is a little bit of a caveat there, the 90% co-insurance, that's our really only, clause that can limit that somehow, that what they're saying there is that our 17 million should be within 90% of what our total property value is.
mhm,
So if you did the 17 divided by .9, you might get up to 20 million, something like that.
okay.
So, as long as we're under 20 million, then, otherwise, they would just prorate, you know, if they said, they did a scan of the county property and thought we had $34 million just for...
underinsured.
We'd be underinsured, and so...
Pretty sure being the fine, insurance organization that you are, you're not gonna underinsure the property.
We hope not, we hope not. Of course, right now, materials, that could be...
Oh, no,
Yeah, they had to replace
Crazy.
it right now.
Oh, might be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a concern for everybody, you know, whether it's just commercial property, residential property, or...
It would be terrible.
So hopefully that starts coming on the way
Yeah.
down. Our crime section, this is unchanged, it's a $200,000 employee dishonesty, blanket policy, $10,000 money and securities. So the employee dishonesty, that's just where you're having, you know, some internal, whether it's property going out the back door, loss of funds. Money and securities might be if there's a department or a division that actually takes cash, has some cash, and somebody walks in the door and says, hand it over. That's what money and securities, we have up to $10,000 stuff. Okay? General liability, similar setup as prior year, $2 million for any one occurrence, $2 million general aggregate, so that just means one occurrence up to $2 million. The policy would pay out a general aggregate of $2 million per policy period under this section. Includes personal and advertising injuries. Also, you see on the bottom of the list, we have employee benefits coverage, employment practices coverage. So your employment practices coverage is going to be things such as wrongful termination, discrimination, libel, slander, those kind of things. Public officials, liability, that's supervisor protection if you legislate something, pass a ordinance that somebody doesn't like and a lawsuit comes along, then we have our public officials liability there. And then, of course, law enforcement liability. And you see some of these, generally, your typical liability policy doesn't have a deductible, but when you get into some of these specialty areas down towards the bottom, you'll see that they do carry a deductible. And then down below is just some of the basic categories that they use to help rate the general liability piece on Business auto on the next page, again, that's a $2 million liability coverage for any one accident. And then we have uninsured motorist protection for if it's not our fault, but we are injured, the other party doesn't have coverage, either they're uninsured or they're underinsured. There's some built-in coverages there. Comprehensive and collision deductibles, for the most part, that's what they are. There are a few trailers that we have where the comprehensive deductible is $100 instead of $250, but for any vehicle, it's $250 comp, $500 collision. Again, we looked at this before, but increasing the collision deductible to $1,000 doesn't generate a whole lot of savings, as you can see there. Otherwise, it was worth looking to see, but you're not even saving enough to make one collision deductible.
We've got that many vehicles out there.
Yeah.
Right. And, of course, the vehicle list, they're given to Dean, they're given to Ben, given to Todd, so they can look at, making sure
Make sure everything's on there.
what they have is out there. We did have, some vehicle changes, I guess I wrote those down. We did engineer's office traded pickup, they added a few Freightliner trucks, last year. The sheriff department, over the current policy, had 3 new sheriff vehicles that were put on, 1 last fall and 2 this spring, so there has been some activity there. Equipment floater, this is where a lot of secondary roads equipment actually falls. It's basically things that may not be licensed for the road, so your dump trucks and things would be on the auto policy, but motor graders, backhoes, any of those types of trenching equipment, any of that type of stuff, is what falls on equipment floater policy. So this has some, benefits to where newly purchased property, if something slips somebody's mind without mentioning something, the policy does allow up to 30% of the scheduled limit, for newly purchased until the policy renews, which, the policy limit down there, you see the values are $4.1 million.
30%, quite a bit.
Yeah, that'll cover some new equipment there. Just have some computer, electronic data, things included in there. We do have our communications equipment, since it's out in the open, for the most part on that new tower and new Motorola equipment, that's kind of broken out separately on there. You can see what we have on that value.
I got a question for you. Where it says computer virus. We have any insurance in case you get hacked? Because that's happened a lot lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some cyber liability as a base level, and that was one thing, actually, I was in C, and they haven't sent me anything here. I did ask them to see, we have a base of $250,000 for cyber liability. There are higher limits available, and I haven't gotten what those quotes are back to, but I can provide you with that next week or what have you, if you're interested in looking at higher levels.
I don't think we need any higher than that, because we don't have that much money that they would go after us for too much.
That's where that would be a part of that. This is, what's listed here is specific hardware and software, but yeah, there is cyber liability. The leased and rented equipment down below is that right there isn't necessarily what is, if one breaks down, we rent another one, but this is covering that rented piece, so,
If you rent something, you're covering it.
Right, it's not the outlay to say, hey, it took $1,000 today to rent this, but you rented a $50,000 machine, and now we're responsible for it, that's what this covers.
Okay.
Worker compensation, so this is kind of the big news piece, of the day here. $1 million limit for employer's liability, that's unchanged. That's not a limit for any kind of medical or lost time injury. This is just strictly if there happens to be a lawsuit that comes out of any particular injury. If it takes more than $1 million for any one injury and or lost time, that's an unlimited value under that part. But where the big improvements came under workers' compensation, last year, the second line down under the premium listing, you know, so our base premium is $99,847, as you see there. That's down a little bit from last year, just as a base level, because over the last several years, base rates have just continued in workers' compensation to come down overall. So we have a little lower starting point, but then where we have where our improvements really start is the experience modifications you see is .87. Last year we were at 1.0. And what this does is a formula that's the workers' compensation commission puts together, and it's, in rough terms, they look at a 5-year experience, and it's the oldest 3 of the most recent 5. So it's a rolling 5, and they take the formula, considers the last 3, and it multiplies out your losses, your premium, some other actuarial factors, and assigns you a mod. And what it's supposed to identify is if you're having more than the expected, what the actuaries expect you should for claims, you're gonna be a higher number. You know, and 1.0 is even. If you end up with a 1.05, you're gonna pay 5% more than the base rate. So it's good to be below 1, we're at .87. So the formula calculated out a 13% credit off of the base, right off the bat. And that represents the $12,981. The premium discount line, that is actually, I don't know why it says 16% there, actually it's 34%, I must have had a typo there. And so that is a combination of 3 things, and one is your longevity credit, just for continuing to be with IMWCA over the years, and then there's a loss experience credit, which that's tied to the better your mod factor is, the better your loss experience credit, so you sort of get a double bonus there. If you get have a good mod factor, you're gonna get even better loss experience credit, and then large premium discount, so that fluctuates obviously with the size of the premium. All of those added together ended up being a 34% credit, which is $29,500 off of our base rate as well. So that takes our discounted premium down to $57,000. Then another thing that's tied to our experience modification is the good experience credit. So you have to be below .95 in order to get the good experience credit with IMWCA. So we obviously fell below .95, and the good experience credit came on. So all in all, you can see close to basically $50,000 worth of savings just for working safe, promoting safety, expecting safety to be followed, safety procedures to be followed. So certainly something to, you know, reiterate to department heads and things like that to really concentrate on safety, because we lost, you know, when we were at 1 last year, not only did we lose experience modification credits, but we lost good experience credit, and you can see how that adds up in our, so.
Now, I think we talked last year, you have training available through your insurance, and did you work with Ben still to kind of get some of that training going?
Yeah, and actually, along that line, you know, Scott Smith is IMWCA's loss control, and he met with Ben last month, actually.
Okay, good.
And part of his job is just to go over procedures, talk, you know, look at some things. His letter back to Ben said that he didn't have any recommendations.
Great.
Good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good, very good.
You know, that being said, I don't know if they discussed much of ongoing training programs, but certainly, you know, that's why when they put Ben and Scott together, they, you know, that was one of the reasons why.
Good.
To have, so Ben knows that Scott's there for a resource.
Good.
And not just personally for him, that he might personally come up and do anything, but they have video libraries,
Right.
they have print materials, everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of good materials that insurance companies can provide, so it's good thing to use.
Right, yeah, and so, you know, and that's part of Scott's job, is he goes around and does, you know, loss control and interviews, the different entities, municipalities that work with IMWCA, and it's rare that when his follow-up letter, that they don't come up with something that he wants you to do, and with the county, we didn't have it, so that's good. Okay. On the backside, commercial umbrella, so this is just another layer of liability insurance. We are at $4 million, so You add that to our underlying policy, so whether it's a general liability or an auto, we have basically $6 million worth of coverage, because your base policy is gonna be used first. If that exceeds the limit that's there, it moves over to our umbrella policy, and that's been $4 million. And that's, I look back, and when we first moved to the ICAP pool back in 2013, that's the level we were at. So we've been at that $4 million level, and this is how you increase your liability. Your base, your GL, your auto, those are always gonna stay at the 2 level. If the county wants additional layers of liability, this is where you... And that's where you see down below the additional cost per million over where our current policy is at to increase that coverage. So I just wanted to point that out, that, you know, we've been at that level for basically 8 years. Certainly, my recommendation, you know, would be to look at higher levels. Today's environment, of course, the question always is, how much is enough? You know, nobody has that crystal ball, but, you know, just with the environment of what's out there with how law enforcement, standard routine things with law enforcement can go wrong in a hurry and be caught on video, and all of a sudden you have a problem. Heavy equipment trucks, you know, we just are, I don't know if you're aware, we just were served a lawsuit with one of our auto accidents from a couple of years ago, so, however far that goes, but, so, those are the kind of things that we're out there with exposure with, and, you know, you can get all the way up to a combination of $15 million if you wanted to, based on that. Okay? And then the last page is just our premium summary, and for the most part, going down the line, there's very minimal changes to most categories. You know, auto, relatively just up a few $100s, but for the number of auto changes we've made, it's really very reasonable. You know, we've added 4 pickups, or 4 different vehicles, 3 of the sheriff, 1 with the engineers, and a few dump trucks and things like that. General liability, equipment floater, property section, as we alluded to, with the concerns with the weather and the amount of damage that came through, that's where a significant change is on the property side. Hopefully that tempers itself going forward. But then on the workers' compensation side, you see the other side where it offset that. And then, of course, the credit voucher, hopefully next year that comes back in, and we'll be able to apply a credit voucher to our overall premium. But still, the overwhelming good news is that we're down 23,000 or so over the previous year. Okay. And Trish will have, of course, I'll get her when they print the overall actual policy, she has that on file here, if anybody wants to see any more details. We'll get the schedules to Ben and to Dean and to Todd, they can review their equipment and/or vehicle schedules.
Scott, I have a question on like the boiler and equipment breakdown for the property, say the one here in the courthouse, that's prorated for the age that it is, I'm
Right.
assuming?
Well, it's not necessarily that, you would have replacement cost on it, but it's basically that's where the determination on whether it's premature or not comes in. It's useful life, expected useful life of something, because that's really what that coverage does, is if you had a premature breakdown of a heating and cooling piece of equipment, then that's what triggers the coverage. You know? So it's something where if we had an air conditioning unit that was 25 years old and all of a sudden the compressor goes out, that's probably not gonna trigger coverage. However, if it was 10 years old, then there's a good likelihood it would trigger coverage, and then you would have replacement cost to actually replace it.
But like the I'm assuming the boiler, does anybody know what the age of the thing would be? I mean, I don't know if it's 20 years old. I've seen it too, and that's what's scary. And, you know, the age of the building, I don't know, I'm not trying to be, you know, just wondering how that would work if next winter when we're all in here and it's groaning and creaking and popping and whatever. I guess I just wondered how that worked if
Right, yeah, if it's one
I
that,
would guess that sucker's probably used up a lot of its life,
Well, I'm guessing so too.
just guessing.
Mhm.
Probably may not fall underneath that.
No,
Yeah, so that may not trigger coverage, you know, if it just finally
Gave up.
decided it was time to be done.
But boilers last forever.
Yeah.
They really do. They last a long, long time.
And where being commercial, we have to have that inspected once or twice a year, so
Mhm.
we're probably pretty well up to date on everything
Yeah.
except the tubes and everything there.
So that's what I wanted to present with, to you, you know, to consider liability,
We talked about that last year too.
Mhm.
Is there any changes the board wants to
I
discuss?
would, you know, Scott said basically when it, 2013, the blanket was been 4 million. I mean, I could potentially see a slight increase of up to 5. I mean, yeah, there's no crystal ball, but that does, I mean, a million isn't what it used to be, I guess, but still, it's an additional $1 million blanket coverage. You know, the fact, if you look at the total number, premium's way down,
Mhm.
and it's not, you know, a huge amount. You're not looking at raising it 10 million and, you know, another 10, 11,000 in premium. I would advocate for bumping that to 5 over 4, just to start on it. A little bit more of a cushion.
Well, you figure the amount that you're paying, $13.95 for another million.
I mean, if you look at the
You
total
look at-
cost of the insurance policy,
Right.
even with the
Yeah.
reduced cost, it's still a big premium.
Mhm.
That isn't, percentage-wise of the premium is still fairly small, bumping up the liability. So, I mean...
What would you consider, or what are you thinking to bumping it?
Yeah, what do you recommend?
What's the industry doing? That's what I'm trying to
Right,
get
you
at.
know, of course, just from my standpoint, I would always recommend taking what's the most available.
Right,
Just covering my... Because I tell you to do something less, and then we're the first ones that have something major happen, you know.
But it's your money, you know, so
Yes.
let's go easy here, but what
Yeah.
is the industry in whole doing?
Well, I had a little bit of background at an $8 million, you know, looking at, ICAP has about 73 or 74 entities out of the 99. And at 8 million, that puts you in the top third. There's, I was involved with a neighboring county, and they actually were at 8 million, and they bumped it all the way to the 15.
Wow.
That's, you know, sitting here probably, but, so, you know, not that we're obviously on the smaller side of population compared to some
It
counties.
really don't matter your
It doesn't
bucket.
matter, yeah.
No, there's no way of knowing.
Still get a big...
It's anybody's guess.
Yeah, like you said, you don't have the crystal ball, you don't know what the next auto accident, you don't know what the next, you know, police issue's gonna be or whatever.
I guess I look like, at least for moving the needle, we'll bump it, you know, 1 or 2 million. I don't think we need to worry about being in the top third, we're not gonna get a prize for it.
Well, if 8 million's the top third, what's the bottom third?
Yeah, I don't have that information.
Well, I mean, if we were 4 million and it...
Yes, 4.
Maybe less than.
I'm just curious to know if we're on the bottom side of that, maybe 2 million would be what you shoot for, but
Yeah.
by the same token, if you wanna get in the middle of it,
Up.
yeah, it gives you a little bit more cushion to,
Mhm.
and for even $2,731 to move up $2 million is really
Very low.
not that big a deal.
Percentage of the total premium is still small, but,
Right.
I mean,
It would be half.
never encroached on.
And actually, the purpose of this is to make someone whole from damages that the county committed,
Right.
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
So I wouldn't be a,
God, you never use it, but,
yeah, but I mean, I'm fine with some sort of increase. I think, you know, the 6 would be probably a good step myself.
Mhm.
you know, so 2 million increased by 2.
I think that would be a good,
I think it's better than what, in this this day and age, it
Yeah.
gives us a little more,
Well, do we need to make a motion on that then?
I think we probably do, because it's a change to our insurance policy.
Well, I'll make that motion to increase the liability to $6 million.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second, any more discussion on? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now, judging from the work comp, the next year, will it be in the same neighborhood?
Yeah, actually, they provide, kind of some history of what goes in, and out of the oldest year that we have, out of the three that they're using, is the highest. So potentially that will stay the same or drop.
Drop some more.
A few more points, right. It shows the incurred loss of the 17-18 was 63,000. Incurred loss of 18 to 19 was only $320. And incurred losses of 19 and 20, 16.4. So, yeah, significantly, there's, the actual incurred is, now, actual incurred, I guess, that is, it could be, because if it's an older injury where they have indemnity, that could be spilled over from prior year, but, because it's actually what they actually paid out. But nonetheless, it's the highest out of the three.
It's a good possibility it could go down again.
Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just need to keep working on a amount factor.
Yeah, the mod factor, and I don't know, I'm not a very good math guy, I don't know if there's an actual bottom, how that formula works.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm sure there is a bottom.
I'm sure they aren't gonna go down to zero, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's 0.8
So they'd be paying us.
something.
There you go.
So, any other questions? Otherwise, there's a few things. This membership proxy, I added Trish's name there instead of Peggy's.
Yeah.
This is the membership proxy that gives information, so you would sign there, and then actually Trish would sign.
Down below there. All right.
You need a motion to approve the renewal?
Probably should. We did have a change on it.
We had a motion and we just didn't vote on
With the
it.
changes.
We had a motion for the change, which we voted on, so we now have a motion for the approval.
Or tell-
Second.
Second from Sandy, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Don't want nobody to come back and yell and say, well, you didn't approve it.
And then this is just a commitment to ICAP that you're gonna continue membership there.
I'm not good with Robert's rule.
And then the last one is, then that was...
So all that's...
And then this is just that I went and presented to you, actually accepted that we increased our limit to $6 million.
Okay.
Perfect.
I got a Robert's Rules book in here if you want it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, keep coming up and...
Do you want this, Scott?
Yeah, I need those back, I can send
Okay.
you, I'll send you what I send in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Overall, good news, property part wasn't our fault.
No, I'm assuming that's because it's part of the group.
Yeah, I mean, just the way insurance
That's how
works
insurance works.
is we're all in it together, and if it would've been us, they would've felt the same,
Yep.
pain, so.
So is it possible that gets, when it gets squared away and there's no more major, hopefully, events statewide, that it could...
Drop back down.
Yeah,
You mentioned that in your presentation.
if I had to envision something, property rates would probably be slow to creep back down. What they would implement first was credit vouchers would come back,
Okay.
and then rates would maybe start.
But sometimes when something goes up, it never goes back down.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I would think out of the two, property rates would probably take a while to trickle back down.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more, hey, we got a credit voucher available,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
that, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we are after our 8:45. But we can go into drainage if we like.
Make a motion, go into drainage, get that taken care of.
Second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna move into drainage.
Kinda like with all the hail that we've had around here the last few years, with the roofs and everything, ours went up a little bit too. We've got 2 new roofs in the last 5 years, so.
Have you really?
Yep. Yep, when it came through, what was it, 17 when it came through that hill?
Yeah, I was-
17 or 18? I'm trying to remember, we got a roof then, and then was it?
2017, because I had to buy a new trailer, so my trailer got beat to smithereens.
Yeah.
That was a big hail.
Yeah, they were large.
Yeah, it was awful. I couldn't believe that. And then a couple of years, whatever it was last year, the year before, I can't remember, it was awful, but I know we had last year.
Good morning, Kim.
Morning.
Morning, Kim.
This will be a short one.
Short one. Well, we have DD 7 sub 2, we have approved pay estimate number 2, that's the final retainage of $5,013.80. We had the completion hearing, was it last 2 weeks ago?
Yes, we've already set the completion hearing. This will just be to release the 30-day,
Retainage.
the retainage, right? And that'll actually, the soonest we can pay that is July 7th, and we do, or we will pay claims on July 8th, so that'll work
Okay.
out perfect. Yep, I just need to make sure that that is approved.
I'll make a motion to approve pay contract as estimate number 2, final, $5,013.80.
Okay?
Second that.
Alrighty, we have a first and a second.
Is that to what, Weisel?
Discussion.
Out of Bert?
Reitzel.
Reitzel out of Bert?
Yep, Breitzel's.
Yep.
Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Well, they did a fine job out there, I do believe,
Yeah, once,
except for the 2 tiles that
Well-
got covered up without
Yeah.
an inspection or a photo. We're working on that, seems
Yep.
like it's a battle every time.
Anything else for drainage?
Not this week, I just have a couple claims. One is actually for you on DD 6, Mills Peterson supplied his final invoice for, that branch B work, and then I have a couple that need final approvals just for the, joint DD 171 at Lizard Creek. It's a right-of-way that I just need, there's a $230 claim and a $272, I just need approvals on that, that's it.
Was
And
that
then I
that
need-
one over in Pokey where they had the,
Yeah,
crop damage?
yeah,
Okay. Alrighty.
yep, I just need your signature on those two, and your signature for this final pay estimate. Okay, yep, that's all I have for drainage this week. I'm just working on, still trying to get parcels updated so we can get everything levied, and rush, working on FEMA. And Dave, I'll leave this with you, so you can look over that before you sign off on that.
I think Brandon Myers finally got out.
we were in drainage also on that point, went out there, took a look, he had got a good start on it this past week, and, it's going good. It's mainly, there's really, the good news is that there's very little sediment, but it's been so long since there's been anything addressed on that, that there's just, some of it's from bank sloughing, and some of it's just from lack of maintenance, where you've got a clump here and a clump here, and it's impeded the flow. And he's not, trying to straighten it per se, but he's getting, the banks shaped back up and getting those clumps out, so it's got a pretty much of a straight.
And then I think there's a ton of pipes that need repair when he gets done.
There could be, he just got started, there isn't a whole lot of pipes right in that area, but, there might be, well, there will be, just don't know the extent. There's a spot already there where he started, that, bank failure to where he said it's probably gonna maybe take some riprap to fix it, to shore it up, you know. Seen a lot.
Isn't there an old bridge across that too?
There
Bridge.
is, but it's,
Stay?
yeah, you can still drive a four-wheeler across. It does not even begin to, no, it's an old wood bridge, you sure wouldn't drive, I wouldn't recommend driving your pickup across it. I think you probably could drive a pickup across it, no equipment, but it's, no, in that first section, it does not impede anything, it wouldn't be taken out. It's good for getting four-wheelers across, basically, but, so a good start on that. He is definitely, we talked, you know, just showing what he's doing, looks good. We'll soon get to the highway, box culverts underneath 169 will have to be cleaned.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they're about 3 foot deeper than they need to be. So, he probably won't clean them that deep.
What's that, Rick?
I say, I'm sure he won't clean it completely out because it won't be nowhere for it.
Do you think they've installed that?
They were installed too deep, 'cause he's got hard bottom on the one side. I went out there and he probed them.
Okay.
He got hard bottom to the east, but underneath the bridge, there's 3 feet of silt inside the box.
Okay.
They just installed that big a box, buried it deeper than it needed to be.
Yeah, they threw it in there type thing, but...
Yeah, they'll probably flush out on their own, hopefully.
But there's 3 openings, if you will, the way that's constructed, it's for the support. So 3 separate spots, 2 of them are basically completely plugged. So, I mean, just to get that cleaned out to, for sure to the depth, or a little below the depth.
Yeah, I don't know how I suppose you can get into the skid loader almost.
It's gonna take, but, I mean, there again, as we found in ditch cleaning and resurrection like this, if you have an impediment, that it's a dam, so if you don't make sure that it can get through these structures, then it's a moot point to do much to the ditch, so. And he said, yeah, he'll, probably by the end of this week, and a good thing we might consider, and Brandon and I visited about it a little bit, he is doing this, you know, fixing, if you will, and cleaning from each side. He's gonna go up one side and down the
Go
other.
back down the other.
And I said, do you really feel that's more time consuming? But he said, particularly no, but you can do a much better job.
You can straighten the banks up that way.
You could, because when you have your machine and the side that you're on, you're concentrating on that side and doing that, and then, of course, the other side the same way. We may have to look at that, a lot closer in ditch cleaning projects, because there can be issue when they reach across, even the best contractors. It's not the same when you reach across to clean as it is from the side that you're on. And sometimes you will get, it's not really undercut, but maybe it's lack of material removal or whatever, but you're not on that side, and you reach across occasionally, that lower portion of the ditch on that side isn't quite right, and it will wanna slough a little bit. And we may have a couple spots on DD 18, and Petersons are aware of that may, as they're still up there, not quite done with that last branch, may have to go address. And most, if that, can be remedied from working from each side. And like Brandon said, really, it goes so much quicker, because you're concentrating on the side you're on, then you flip over to the other side.
You do a much better job.
You do, really, and it hopefully alleviate most, if not all, of any future issues with the ditch bank. So, but that's going well. There was a concern brought to my attention, that does dump into a natural waterway, which is a Bloody Run Creek, that maybe that creek's not so spiffy as it meanders its way, 'cause all creeks meander after they're a drainage district. Yeah, I don't know, I looked at it to the degree it could be looked at, about maybe a drone, whether there is or there isn't, but I just wanna say there was a concern, you know, as we've heard, and I said we certainly dealt with that before. It looks pretty good, even though the small amount of water that's going into there, it is flowing, and he is definitely, you know, improving the channel of the ditch with getting the crud out of the bottom of it, so. He's moving along, and I think he's gonna keep pretty concentrated on that project this summer, so. I talked to Kim briefly, and this is just an update. I asked her on that joint district with Webster County with the railroad. and Kim can speak to that, but she said she submitted those bills that we looked at to the railroad. Webster County's drainage clerk has been out, so, and Kim, you can say, I don't wanna speak for you, but there's been no news on that. Any response back from the railroad as far as the amount they're paying, which should be most, if not all of it, but I'm sure it won't be.
Yeah.
So that's kinda hanging out there.
Okay.
Anything else in drainage?
No.
Motion to go out of drainage.
Second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're out of drainage, back into general session.
Okay, I'll go get Trish. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Kim.
you.
So we must be doing some proposed work on Highway 17.
Yeah, they're gonna work on a railroad crossing,
Fix a railroad crossing?
fixing a railroad crossing.
Yeah, see they got the rails and stuff sitting up there.
Which one, the first one or the second one?
First one, I think, ain't it? I can't remember, I know one of them's got the rail sitting there.
They have like a section, Dave?
Yeah, it's like a section, two rails and the ties are all tied in, looks like you want to put it all warehouse in there and then...
That's
I think we might be gonna do that on 169 as well. I see a section of that stuff sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay, first up here, we have, an approved agreement with Iowa DOT for detouring Iowa Highway 17, commencing at junctions of Iowa 17 and Highway 3, west on Highway 3, north on P66, and then back east on C26 to Highway 17. They are repairing the railroad crossing on 17. Ben told me it'd probably be a 2-week process. Typically, they go out and inspect our roads first, and then they inspect the road after they're done, and they pay for any damages that have acquired from the extra use, if there is any.
But all the paperwork and everything's in order for them to do
Everything's in
that?
order.
Do they have a date on when they're thinking about doing that? Begin on,
7/12
Yep.
to 7/26.
I see that.
So it's approximately 2 weeks.
Yep.
If everything's in order, I'll make that motion to approve the detour.
Second.
We have a first from Sandy, second from Bruce. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we have authorized Rick Peterson to sign financial assurance documents for Humboldt County Sanitary Landfill. This is something we do yearly. And,
33,420 a year.
90% of that is testing.
Yep.
Is what?
Testing.
Testing.
They check it, take water samples,
Didn't you tell us not too long ago, the end is in sight,
2026.
2026, 5 years? So it's gonna remain fairly...
Actually, we're hoping this is gonna go down, because we're hoping we can get to a biannual, or an annual test instead of quarterly.
Okay, so...
We got some letters out to the DNR, and there shouldn't be any problems, because all of our tests have been coming up really good.
So maybe they'll let testing be less often, so
Yeah.
you have less
Yeah.
expense.
Right.
Well, that being said, is, you got anything else, Rick?
No, like I say, we shut the pumps off underneath the landfill a year and a half ago, because we were pumping water out from underneath into the lagoon. Well, then we'd have to spend about $10,000 to haul the lagoon water up to Renwick, and we thought, let's try this. And we shut the pump off, nothing's changing in the water quality underneath the landfill, so we're just letting her sit.
Don't have to build lagoons handling
Don't have to
everything?
spend that extra money.
Good.
So, they're monitoring, and like I said, they...
Apparently quite often,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, say hopefully, the downhill slide of that, but I would make the motion to authorize Rick to sign the financial assurance documents for the county for the sanitary landfill.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Alrighty, we're down here to authorize chairman to sign union contracts for 27.
7/21 to 6/24.
It's a three-year contract.
Everything was,
This was through the dispatchers and
Yep,
the stuff we negotiated.
yep, dispatchers,
few weeks
jailers,
ago.
and deputies that we spent a couple meetings with.
I'd make the motion to authorize you to do that.
I'll second.
Have a first and a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looks like we're down to committee reports.
I was gone for a week, and I didn't have any meetings. Well, I did have a meeting, and I was trying to find it was for that board I'm on down at the surf, what is it, surf deck? Secondary roads, state secondary roads, they are having issues with, they're trying to, for the traffic counts that they had last year during the pandemic, they don't think that the numbers were high enough because the numbers of traffic moving, they figure are way off. So a couple of the counties were, putting together letters to write and send to the state. And I think Dallas County was one of them that was, I'm guessing mostly around, I think it was us last year or 2 years ago that was counted up in the northwest corner. I think it was 2 years ago. But anyway, they're trying to do away with those numbers so that they can possibly use this year's numbers with traffic beginning to pick up. And so that, they had a meeting on Zoom, I guess. That was the only thing I had.
Okay, Monday the 14th, we had a meeting down at the magistrate's, room, with Rolling Hills, and, Dean Kruger was there, and, let's see, I'm trying to think who all was there. Someone from the hospital, and, the police chief was there, Joel, and, a couple of, schools, there was 3 people from the school and AEA, and just went over again what Dawn just wanted to make sure everybody was, up to date with what Rolling Hills was gonna be able to provide and who they need to contact, and Melissa from, the place in Sac, County that does our mobile crisis, they were there and went over that. So everybody feels very comfortable with who they need to contact. Cell phone numbers were, exchanged, so if they can't get them through the regular line, if it's after hours, she gave them a after hours number and everything. So everybody's very comfortable, feels really good with, that. So that was, I thought, a very good meeting. And then Tuesday was, kitty cat, daycare. Again, our problem is, wages. We just can't, to get people to, we could take in more kids, we just don't have the ratio for employees to children. And it's all to do with, wages and being able to pay enough to, 'cause you can, a lot of places are starting out at 10, 12, $14 an hour, so it's hard for a daycare to compete with that. I talked about the ARP money, which I talked to you guys about last week, that you can use that money
To subsidize
to
wages.
subsidize daycare, so that's something I think we really need to, look together and really put something together so that we can take more kids in and then also, meet with a higher wage to compete with these other locations.
That's the problem everywhere,
Mhm.
is
Oh,
getting employees and keeping them.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
A lot of these restaurants aren't opening up their lobbies because they can't get people to work.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is, you might be able to make more at the restaurant than you can at the daycare, so.
Right. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just another double-edged sword, but yet people need daycare. We have waiting lists, but we just don't have the employees to get the kids in. So there is a need for this daycare. It's just getting,
I sat in a meeting with Joni Ernst when she was there.
oh, were you able to make that?
And I told her, I says, why don't you let the people that work at daycare collect their unemployment, and still work at the daycare? At least they'd be doing something,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, God, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to stay home.
It just doesn't, yeah, some of the things that they've done, yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
So, with the way that things are over there now, are they at least holding their own? Are they paying enough to pay the bills? Are they keeping their head above water somewhat?
Barely.
Barely?
I mean, it's,
I'd say their nose is sticking out of the
It is,
water.
I mean, we don't have a lot of excess. I mean, so, it's,
Well, at some
We're
point, we're gonna have
breaking
to
even.
decide, we gotta either figure out a way to get that extra revenue by getting extra kids in there, by getting extra people to help.
mhm,
And sometimes I think you might have to raise the cost of going to the daycare to pay the employees
right,
to work there.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a need, so you need to pay the
right,
cost.
right. And we're putting together a subcommittee to look at costs, because we did have, it's been a year and a half since we've increased our costs. So we are putting a subcommittee together, and I'm on that to see what we can do to, because it's the truth. And, they're, what is it, July 15th at $300?
I guarantee if their cell phone bill went up, they'd still keep their cell phone.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, then there's that $300 per child,
Tax credit.
tax credit that's gonna be coming in. Isn't that monthly? I'm pretty sure
That's
it's,
monthly.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's monthly. So, we were thinking, that's supposed to go
That's what
towards,
it's for.
right, it's supposed to go towards daycare. So, we've gotta look at what can we reasonably charge? You know what I mean? We don't wanna be,
But there is a thing to
There's a reasonable charge.
being the best place to go, and you pay a fee to go there.
right.
Uh-huh.
You
Mhm.
know, I
Right.
don't wanna go to the place that has the cheapest hot dog,
Right.
because it's probably not the best hot dog.
Mhm. Well, they
But
have,
sometimes you gotta change your attitude about your facility and say, we're gonna be the best around, and you're gonna have to pay to come here.
right,
And I think if you change your attitude a little bit about that, as to, oh, we're the cheapest, send your kids here,
mhm.
Well,
we're just
That's
not-
a great facility.
Oh, it is, and it's not just daycare, they actually do learning.
Yes.
I mean, so it isn't like it's just...
It's like more of a preschool than a
Correct,
daycare.
correct. And the, school is actually closing their after-school program, they're not doing it next year. So we're looking into, we haven't committed to doing an after, but we've gotta look into it more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that's another good possibility that we could, help with that. The school's already said we could use the library, we could use, the gym,
Yeah.
and that, to be able to keep these after kids. So we're looking into that. So there's things we're looking into to bring in more revenue. It's just,
Difficult.
it just takes time too. I mean, and right now at the school, we gotta get it figured out, and that's what we said too, we gotta get that figured out because school's gonna start in August. I mean, it doesn't seem like very long, but it is. I mean, And then my other meeting on Wednesday, the 16th, was over at Waterloo, and that was the CSS HR committee, and, that was a really good meeting, as far as, we got all the HR stuff figured out and everything, but then we all went to lunch afterwards, and we were all talking about the ARP system and what different ones, so we were just talking about what different people were gonna be doing with it. Most of them are going to be having somebody that is, monitoring their money and working with them, and that is a service that you can use the ARP money for, is to have somebody to just take care of that, the money and things like that. It makes sure that regulations and things like that, so that might be something we need to look at. All the other counties have put together, there was 6 counties there, 5, put together committees as far as, like their county development, their EMA, 2 supervisors on the board, or the committee, trying to think who else they had on there. You know, as far as for these funds to use it for, you could put on your, conservation, we could talk, you know what I mean? So I think that's something we need to look at too, as far as this ARP money, to make sure that we're utilizing it to the best of our ability. So, that's something I think we need to look at. That's it.
That's all?
That's all.
Had a meeting on the 16th for housing, and, I see they broke ground on that one house now.
Did they?
Soy land, so.
That's the one on Second Avenue?
No, down off of First Avenue, down on, what is it, Sixth? Fifth or Sixth, whatever it is down there. I see a big pile of dirt in the back, and the excavator's there, so, must be one foot of basement. Yeah, 1 foot of basement under it, so. That's the only thing I had.
Well, I already mentioned, past Tuesday, I went out and just checked on the progress on the DD-11 ditch, cleaning and renovation, I explained that. And Wednesday afternoon, I stopped by here, for Carleen Lunker's retirement party. And that looked like she had a really nice party, and,
Good.
oh, she was looking forward to retirement, and had a nice visit with her, so. That was my 2 semi-official things this past week.
Okay, Wednesday afternoon, I had the Humboldt County Housing meeting at City Hall with Dave was at. Yeah, those Soylent Homes there, he says they got the one hole dug and they got the other one property purchased. They're gonna be putting 2 of them homes up first to see how they move. They're gonna be sold in that 179 to 185 range. They're kind of I wouldn't say they're modular, they're more of a package homes.
Kind of a starter home type situation.
They come in 5 panels.
Oh.
The exterior walls are that EBS type where that's foam, styrofoam walls on the exterior, so it'll be, they put the floor on, set the walls up, set the roof on, and then they finish them.
Do you have basements?
He's got basement.
Yeah, basement on with that, okay.
Includes all the appliances, washer,
That was a
dryer,
16.
Huh.
stove, refrigerator, everything.
Yeah, they're gonna be a complete home, and hopefully they claim once they get started, it's about a 12-week from,
Stood, finished?
yeah, once the foundation's in the ground, so.
Pretty quick.
We'll see how it turns out. They have, the Soylent Company has built a couple in Webster City, it went pretty well for them. They're basically trying to get some affordable housing into these communities. I know another community in Humboldt here, county has looked at them.
Eagle Grove looked at them.
Eagle Grove was, Renwick kinda looked at them, and then they kinda pulled away from it for a little bit, and they wanna see how this, I think they wanna see how it works first. We're kinda the guinea pigs here in
What the
Humboldt
home
County.
looks like.
Yeah.
3-bedroom.
3-bedroom, modest home, double-car garage.
Wow.
So,
Unfinished basement?
Unfinished
At least
basement.
it'll have a basement.
Yeah.
yeah, he'll have a basement, for storage, and, like I say, it's, and we're putting them in, kinda fill-in areas in Humboldt where there's an old dilapidated house, rip it down and put something decent in, so.
Good.
Hmm?
That's a great
The
program.
walls are coming in out of that outfit up at,
Gretchen.
Gretchen, where they build the buildings, the whole buildings, and they come in sections.
Mhm.
That's what the walls are, is foam,
Yeah.
Mhm.
all paneled, and they just come
Yeah.
through the panels.
Set the walls.
Makes the construction go
windows
pretty
in,
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the thought, and high efficiency, and,
And they're 3-bedroom homes?
yes. Like I say, they're not real large bedrooms, but these are starter homes,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
And then we talked about, the building trades programs, with, they picked up 2 properties for the building trades, which has switched from building houses to renovating, rehabbing houses.
Good.
And I think the students seem to enjoy that. They get a lot of experience in a lot of different areas.
Oh, yeah.
And, so they have one that, they're gonna start on, and the other one is ready for next year. 'Cause it's kinda hard to find a house that they can buy that's reasonable shape at a lower price, you know,
Mhm.
so.
They got one right now for sale.
Yes, and the one they did last year is for sale on Fifth
109.
Avenue and Ninth Street, I think.
Ninth Street,
Corner of Fifth and Ninth.
$199,000.
Mhm.
That's
It's a
reasonable.
$200-and-some-thousand home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
LMI funds were used, so it cannot sell over $199,900. So, that's why it's priced at where it's at.
Should get $250 out of it.
Wow.
It's a nice home. It's been completely redone, you know.
So I take it somebody could buy it for $199.99 and then live in it for a while and then resell it?
There is a clause where if you resell it for more than the $199, you have to give that back.
Oh,
If you
wow.
haven't
Well, that's-
made
If you haven't made any improvements, it's a five-year, what do they call that? Amendment or something like that?
Well, that's good to know, because
Keeps
you
the-
don't, I mean, there's...
keeps the house flippers
From buying it
away from it.
and
Just
reselling.
yeah, that, and that's kinda what I was hoping there was something.
For low-income families.
Right.
Keeps the house flippers away from that too.
And that's kinda what I was, I'm like thinking...
Yeah, it does.
Well, that's good, I'm glad they have a protection
Yeah,
in
they
there.
protected that, so. So that's about all I
That's
have.
pretty good stuff there.
I think, yeah, I think
Hope
it
too.
fits this
hope those
way.
turn out well, I'm sure they'll turn out well, and then it works the way they want for the, you know, said semi-affordable housing for a new
Yeah,
home.
and then they clean up these dilapidated
I
properties
like that.
in parts of town that need to be
Mhm.
cleaned
Cleaned
up.
up. I mean, that's a great idea.
It
Yeah.
is, it's kind of a win-win, and
Keeps things from looking
Yeah.
up and more modern and, you know, instead of letting things fall apart.
Mhm. And I think the kids get a little more hands-on, 'cause when they were building a lot of these newer homes up in there, there was a lot of watching going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This way they get in there and they can,
They can tear out walls or insulate or whatever.
a lot of different experiences in the
Mhm.
renovation.
Well, let's face it, those kids need that experience. They need to realize there's good jobs out there
yep.
that they can...
So that's what I had. Anything else for the...
I got a request for, out here on the Gotch Park Road, for the speed coming into town, I guess, and I drove out there twice this weekend, and I know that part of it is because of the resurfacing, but that thing goes from 55 mile an hour down to the curve is 20 mile an hour. And I guess there's been some issues where people walking across the trail,
It is kind of a blind corner.
it's a blind corner, and the people mentioned that they're worried someone, walking early in the morning or late at night, wanted to know if I could talk to Ben and see if we could drop that speed from the top side.
It'd be the city we'd have to talk to.
Yeah.
'Cause the city, they own the property quite a ways out, we're in city limits.
Out to the,
Well, they're talking out past the
The waste treatment plant.
Catholic cemetery,
Yeah.
someone that, it was similar to what they wanted to do up here at the high school with traffic coming in at 55, and all of a sudden you're by the trailer court, they wanted to stair step it down. I said, well, it makes perfect sense to me, and the curve is 20 mile an hour posted, but I said, I don't know, couldn't see if our signs had been taken down for the repaving, but
But I know Ben, if we have old signs, he'll donate them to the city to put up,
well,
so.
just
'Cause I
before
think that's what
someone...
we did up at the high
Yeah.
school.
I
Before
come in
something
that lake
happens.
quite often, and it don't break, you don't break until you hit the hill and start down.
Yeah, and that's what their fear is,
They're rolling pretty hard when they hit that
Yeah.
hill.
so...
Back at the cemetery, it should be cut back before...
I would think so, right there at that area, there should be at least drop down in the 40s
Yeah,
somewhere.
drop to 45 or 40 or...
'cause it's easy to just
35.
stay on it until you get, all of a sudden you're at that curve, and then if somebody's walking across the trail,
Oh, yeah.
I would hate to see someone hit, so I guess if it's the cities, then I'll touch base with Ben and have him,
Yeah, I'll give Travis a call at the city and visit with him about it.
all right, perfect,
Good idea.
perfect. That's all I had.
Do you have anything for us, Trish, anything else? Go ahead.
Question. So, if I looked at the calendar correctly, July 4th is actually on a Sunday this year.
Yep.
Courthouse closed on that Monday,
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
so chances are we won't be having a meeting on the 5th.
Probably not.
That'd be on next week's agenda.
Yep, just
Yeah.
checking. I didn't know what the,
It's hard to believe it's gonna be July.
I didn't know what the
4th of July, summer sun is way down.
I know it.
closing date, so...
Are you doing, are we doing the parade?
Well, I was gonna congratulate you
Yeah,
on
great
being,
marshal right there.
I saw that,
Oh,
I meant to...
Congratulations. I heard it was in the paper, I haven't
Yeah,
seen it
it was in the
yet.
paper, I was gonna, oh, it's...
read the paper, dang it.
Yeah, nice picture of you
I'm
smiling.
gone.
That was a really nice picture of you that they had in the paper.
Was it?
Yeah, it was, it was really
Beardless
nice.
and everything?
No, you had your beard, it was a very nice picture of you. But congratulations on
Yes,
being the parade marshal.
congratulations.
They asked me,
Awesome.
they asked me, and I said, no, I don't think so, but then they twisted my arm, so.
Well, good for you.
That's nice, I'm glad they did that, that's awesome.
But someone asked me, last year, kind of,
I think
we
there's a
didn't,
group of volunteers that are putting it together again.
Yep.
Mhm.
so I just was curious if we were doing it as a board, if we're,
I don't know if I'm gonna be around on the 4th, I don't know how many other board members are gonna be around.
I'll prob,
I
I
think
don't
we're
know, we
gonna,
didn't talk, I think we're gonna be around. Haven't heard whether my brother's coming.
but it'll be just, it'd just be us three if he's on the, unless we all ride with him.
You guys can drive him.
There you.
Might need a driver for an old home, soldiers.
Soldiers home.
Soldiers home or whatever, but, for everybody's information, July 1st, the flags go up at the courthouse.
Okay.
July 6th, they come down.
First and
Thursday and Tuesday.
I will send Coach that information, 5 o'clock on the
5
first.
o'clock on the 1st, that's Thursday, and then they'll come down on the 6th, that's Tuesday. Need all the help we can get.
5 o'clock on the 6th as well.
It don't take very long if you get enough people out there.
Yeah,
We counted 30 with all the students, and I think there's about 20 of them, so.
yeah, there's a lot of flag, especially taking them down, there's a lot of folding to go on and
Yeah, the ladies get a little overrun with
trying to keep up.
numbers, trying to keep up, so.
And you make that call, Bruce, 'cause that's...
I will do that.
Well,
I will send him a message when we get done.
We really appreciate the kids doing it, school helping, and the community helping.
Yeah,
That's a big...
we had a lot of help both ways, so.
just, on the weed control front, there seems to be a slight influx of what is called wild carrot. And it is relatively tall.
Is it edible?
I would not eat it, and do not play in it.
Is that whitehead flower?
It's white, and it's 3+ feet tall right now.
Does it make you burn like a
Yes,
parsnip?
it's related to wild parsnip.
Great.
That's why I'm-
And it's, I call, you know, as far as weeds go, it's semi-noxious weed. Found a few locations, that the grass get treated, have a good product that the Russian weed control uses. So keep your eye out for that. It's still quite controllable right now. It doesn't harden off quite as quick as wild parsnip. We got a couple outbreaks of that squelched as well, but it's pretty evident. It's not this tall, it's right this tall.
Really? And it's got a white head?
It's white.
That's white.
Very, right now,
Is it similar to the wild parsnips look, but it's white? Or how?
no, wild parsnip typically has got yellowish
Yeah.
flowers and doesn't get this tall. It's,
But is that kind of the same type of looking plant?
No.
It has kind of-
Wild carrot, the
Yeah,
reason they call it
yeah.
wild carrot, if you look at the leaves, and you took a carrot, an actual carrot,
Yeah.
the leaves are similar.
Yeah.
Similar to carrots.
Yeah.
And actually, I think even carrots, if you let them go to seed,
No,
have white flowers.
actually, yeah, they will.
So it's a wild
It's like
carrot.
a white flower. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's kinda,
Round shape.
yeah,
Yeah.
kinda, I don't even, I mean, but it's, yeah.
And typically, they grow in a group, in a clump.
Cluster,
Yep, there'll be
they're
a
clusters.
single one here and there. Wild parsnip sometimes is more singular,
I know.
kind of spread out along the right of way or something, but this stuff, and it's just been a few patches of it, and it's very evident, so we got those treated. Treated the whole area, 'cause it included some parsnip, and then along the fence line of this big clump of wild carrot, where the dirt pile is just north of Bow, the county has that huge, intersection. So they decided to go in and not only control that carrot, but just the whole area. 'Cause there's a few thistle, in, the right-of-way is sprayed, but of course, this is well past the right-of-way. So the wild parsnip, the few thistles, and the wild carrot, so that whole area got treated, just to clean that up. So if you see it, we just as soon not have an influx of that, 'cause we're getting the wild parsnip feedback pretty good. The program that we're using is really very effective, this early spraying. And you can see that it is, because when they use their boom sprayer, and they get to a road sign, and they pull in the boom, and if they're in an area, of course, where there's parsnip, that's where it's growing.
Yeah.
So it didn't get treated. And so, I kid Don Reefer, there is a former supervisor in Cassuth County, that if he saw one weed, 'cause he knew that where they were spraying, he called him out. So I tell you, I'm that guy. I'm that guy. So, they're going out in some of those areas where it's so evident, and then they retreat, whether it's by a bridge or a sign or whatever. And so, it has been very effective on that, but so if you see that, let me know, and we're probably in the next couple week period, through in the first part of July, that's really treatable, that wild carrot, and it is easy to see. You will not mistake it.
Yeah.
And we just soon get that under control, so, 'cause it's the most I've seen of it, all over the place. I've seen it on bike trails and stuff where I haven't really seen it before. Must be a good year for it, so.
Dry.
But, be that as it may, that's just,
Weeds grow amazingly well.
oh, it seems to be having a
Yep.
great year.
Yep.
It's been around, but it seems to be more prevalent this year, so we just as soon not have that take over the right of way.
I agree.
And that's all I got.
Nothing else, I'd look...
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dave.
Second. 9:48.
By Bruce, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:48.